welcome to Bros from Another Mo. This is episode 3 and we're going to be talking about interfaith. Before we do that, just like to say hello to everybody. I'll say salam, shalom, namaste, and then sasyakal. And my name is Said Kerblai, and I'm going to pass over to my brother.
Hi there, thanks for that, bro. Yeah, my name's Dhanavir Singh, and also a few thank yous as well. So, no, thank you, sorry, a couple of highs. So, hello, bonjour, buongiorno, the couple of highs from the languages I know.
Brilliant. No, thanks for that. Anyway, how are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm all good. Not too bad. Just enjoying the kind of hot weather, but not so much sunny, but still nice and warm. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's the Scottish and the British summers for you, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought, like we did in the previous podcast, just want to thank a number of people, Rebel PT, friends and family, also Liam Bailey, who's been an absolute star. So thank you, Liam, for helping out with these podcasts. Also, as we did in the previous episode, is before we start talking about interfaith, it's important that we just define what we mean by interfaith, so there's no confusions. So I'm just going through the Oxford Dictionary definition of interfaith, and as an adjective, it's interfaith is defined as relating to or involving different religions or members of different religions. For example, action to encourage interfaith dialogue, or you could say, we want constructive interfaith dialogue. There's other words which are used to describe interfaith, which is inclusive, mixed, cross-religion, interdenominational, interreligion, interreligious, multi-religious. Just a little bit of history. I was going back, and for what I could find was, the use of interfaith kind of really increased since the 1940s. It could be because of post-war, we were trying to, get an understanding of other people's religions and not have this divisive conversation of religions. And then the word interfaith really peaked up in the 1996. I remember when I was at university and the first really time I heard it. And it continues to be used to the present day. So that's just a brief definitions of interfaith and a little bit of the history. Now, more than ever, interfaith dialogue is important, especially if there's any conflicts around the world. We want communities to be inclusive. We want to have unity, and interfaith dialogue is really important. So, Damir, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I just want to add something. Obviously, I know there'll be a slight crossover from our last podcast with the matter of faith, but there is some differences. So forgive us if we look like we're repeating ourselves, but it was important that we covered this topic as well.
Yeah, no, that's really good points there. Thank you, Danveer. So as Danveer mentioned, in episode 2 we discussed faith, and this is episode 3, and we're discussing interfaith. Episode 4 will delve more into religion. And it's important that we define these, as we go along. As we said, we may be repeating ourselves, but it's important that we, really clarify what we're talking about here. So David, so we can just move on to some of your work in the Edinburgh Sikh community and your Gurdwara, and what work that you've done with Interfaith Edinburgh and also Interfaith Scotland. Do you want to talk about some of that?
Yeah, good starting point. So, yeah, I'm a Savardar of the Edinburgh Sikh community, which is a selfless service volunteer worker. And I've done a lot of interfaith work with Edinburgh Interfaith specifically, but also Interfaith Scotland as well. And really enjoyed it, to be honest with you. I feel like it's made me who I am today, for sure. So I really always big them up. Especially I'll give a shout out to Ian Stewart, the director of Edinburgh Interfaith, who's an amazing character. Himself, his background is a Christian, but he does so much for the community, bringing all faith groups together, and that is just priceless. So for some things that I do is we try to have events at the Gurdwara to bring faith groups together. For example, there was a peace walk. Unfortunately, I was out of town for this one. They had a few weeks ago where all the faiths of Edinburgh, do a walk to different places of worship, and sometimes, which this time, they ended their peace walk at the Gurdwara. where then they were greeted by the Sikh community and also, got to enjoy a meal on the Sikh community as well, langar, as we call it. So yeah, that's been an amazing experience for me working with Interfaith and meeting so many amazing people. And I'll go more in detail as we go through this podcast, the things that I've actually have done with them.
No, that's absolutely brilliant, and it's for the work that you've done and the Sikh community have done in Edinburgh, Leith, at the Gurdwara there. And you were talking about Interfaith Scotland and Ian Stewart and Interfaith Edinburgh, but then also Interfaith Scotland, which is Dr. Maureen Sear, is that right?
Yeah, that name rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I want to mention with my community, with from the Muslim, community and charity, the Scottish Alabed Society, and they're from the Shia Muslim tradition. And you obviously come across Scottish Alabed Society in the kind of crossover interfaith work, and so they're currently in the 11th year, I think, with the Imam Hussein blood drive with Scottish Blood Transfusion Service. So again, just to highlight that, and again, it's about encouraging the blood donations, but also kind of looking at a wider work that Scottish Alabed Society have done. They've done a lot of work. Recently one of the directors walked 100 miles for the Beatson Cancer Charity because his brother was getting treatment there, and he felt that he wanted to do something for Beatson, and also my T-shirt I've got on is Diabetes Scotland. And that's a kind of reminder for me, because through the Scottish Alabed Society, I became a peer support volunteer for Diabetes Scotland and also a community champion. And you can see through your work and other organizations, there's a lot of, work going on interfaith wise to help many communities. So I previously talked about Interfaith Edinburgh. And do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about the work that you've done with schools and with the panel of interfaith religious leaders who've gone into schools to explain religion?
Yeah, that was where it all started for me. I think where Ian Stewart invited me along to some schools in a panel, but also on my own as well, solely, to tell the kids and explain to the kids and teach the kids, not only the kids but the teachers as well, about like who we are as Sikhs, and then obviously in the wider faith as well, like Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Baha'is. So some of the work I've done, I really enjoy the whole panels. So I've been into schools and we'll sit in a panel, again, a panel of, 5, 6 different faith groups, and we'll sit in, classes and also assemblies where kids then and teachers get to ask all those questions, as well as we will give our kind of 5 minutes of who we are, what we do, and how we practice our faith. Then we open up to questions, and some of the questions have been really interesting, and some of them can be quite deep as well. But it really helps them to engage with us directly. And from what the feedback we've had from most schools and the pupils and the teachers, that it's been greatly received, because this type of interaction never used to really happen. I mean, myself growing up in schools, it was like watching a video on RE or RME or whatever it gets called these days, and that's all you got to see is a video watching a short clip. Where now you're getting this one-to-one engagement interaction with the faith, let's say faith leaders. I don't like using that name, but that's what we get called sometimes. And they get to ask us personal questions, they get to ask us all questions about the faith, and it really opens up their minds of who we are, and I think it helps them then integrate better in society, knowing that we all live amongst these different faith groups, but we're all just human beings at the end of the day, and our main mission is to fall in love with God.
That's nicely said and nicely put. But from my experience, so I grew up on Blackburn in Lancashire, and I went to, I think it was a Roman Catholic school, because I remember we had to go to mass and we went to church quite a lot. I think the reason my parents and other parents sent those kids to that religious school, and I think it happens to this day, is because they want a school which is religious and has that kind of religious principles, no matter what those religious principles are. But also, when I grew up in the height of the 80s in Blackburn, we had quite a lot of mixed heritage and interfaith, communities, in Blackburn as well. So, but I think what you said earlier on there, so we never had any of this. We never had, a panel would come in from different religions and giving that lived experience, and I think it's so important, especially in this social media keyboard warrior divisive, sometimes rhetoric regarding religions, that they're at the community level and at schools, there's people come in like yourself, giving that true understanding and not, to kind of myth busting as well. Do you feel that kind of what you get out of it as well?
Yeah, 100%. And just to quote, you normally say about lived experience. I love using that word. I use it a lot, and I definitely stole it from you. Yeah, it is. It's because again, coming back, you can watch a video, but you'll hear like one side coming from that video. But where you meet someone who's actually practicing the faith, they get to meet them and I see them on a personal level and understand that they're just like you and I, and we're just living life as normal, but we're living with a faith. And to explain that to kids and hearing it coming from your own mouth, it really helps them to break some of those barriers and stigmatisms and misconceptions that they have, because they might read something that's maybe propaganda online and think, oh, this religion's really bad. These Muslims do this, or these Sikhs do that, or these Christians believe in this. And then, but when they hear it coming from someone direct and think, no, you know what, I actually got all that wrong. Because let's face it, on like say social media, internet, there's a lot of propaganda, there's a lot of made up things. But when you hear it directly, then people do fall in love. And I've heard people saying, oh, I would love to know more about this faith, whether that's Baha'i religion or the Buddhist religion. They want to explore more. I think that's what it's all about, is breaking down those barriers and saying you don't have to follow a faith. You could be a part of many faiths. And that's what I think what comes out some of the talks that we've been to in schools.
I find it amazing, and I think it's such an important thing that you and the other faith leaders do as part of Interfaith Edinburgh and Scotland, because it's about breaking down those barriers and misconceptions and myth busting and misinformation, you know, and shall we say fake news,
Yeah.
yeah. And can you give us the listeners some examples of? I think you said you had a school come in from Dunfermline, and one particular kid was loving the day, basically. And do you want to give a bit more context to that, about that story for the
Yeah, yeah.
listeners?
I've had a lot of examples of that, but that one's like a recent one. So I had a visit from Dunfermline, first time coming to a Gurdwara and visiting a Sikh place of worship. So they came from Dunfermline on a coach, and they came with some of the parents who were like volunteer helping out for the trip, because there was about, I think there was about 50 kids it was, so it was quite a big class, secondary pupils, and they actually loved the visit, because they haven't been to a Gurdwara before, and there was one kid that kept asking these questions. I think there was first year people, so they're quite young, but there was this one kid who just showed such like an interest in the faith and hearing what I had to say, and everywhere I was going, whether I was upstairs in the prayer room telling them something, or downstairs in the langar hall where we were feeding them, they kept asking me the same questions like, "Can I be a Sikh?" And this Sikh religion is amazing and all that. And that's because they've seen, obviously, and I say this humble as possible, they've seen the spirit in me that I'm quite passionate about my faith, because it brings so much goodness to me, but also the world as well, I feel. So yeah, they had such an interest, but it went so well that the pupils and the teachers and the parents of the school donated money as well to myself, and obviously to the Gurdwara as well, just to say thank you, because they enjoyed the trip so well. So these things are so important, I think.
Yeah, no, I think, it's so important to have that good experience, and I think the school was Queen Anne High School, is that right?
Well, that's
So
the one,
just
yeah.
so you can obviously give a shout out there to them, as well as on the YouTube channel and here on Spotify as well. So no, well done to Queen Anne, and I'm sure you'll have other examples. Do you want to give any other examples of other school visits that you've done? Was it Dollar Academy? Did you?
Yeah, yeah, I've been to a few. Dollar Academy, I've been back. That's actually a good example, because Dollar Academy, I've been there 4 times, and from the first visit I had, Ian Stewart, who's the director of Interfaith, he always gets a call from Dollar Academy when they're looking at planning another visit, and they always say, can you send that Sikh guy along because he's quite entertaining and quite enjoying it. And that, I'm not making that up. That's been, been told to me on many occasions. So I try my best because it's quite far away from Edinburgh. Not quite far, but it is far. It's a bit of a mission. But yeah, that it's a private school, private secondary school, and the kids, they all follow me on TikTok, on Instagram and stuff, which is quite interesting. Because I remember from my second visit, I think I got a really good interaction with the kids. When I came back home, I had all these, followers, and I looked at it, and it was kind of all connected, and it was all Dollar Academy pupils. So that was kind of suck. I like actually going to that school because I feel I've built quite a good connection with Dollar Academy.
Yeah, so it sounds like a good relationship, a good rapport, and it's great you've got that label, the Sikh guy, because that's brilliant, So I wish I had that label, but we just always have to clarify, when you said that, kids were really enthused about and saying, "Oh, can I join the religion?" It's not about joining a religion. It's about, it's about understanding religion. And if somebody, and you're not looking to convert anybody, we just need to clarify that as well.
Yeah, no, 100%, because I always say that. So whenever I do my talks, whether it's in the school or an organization, be it like a fire station or a police station, because I've done some talks in those kind of areas as well. I always say I'm not here to, okay, I'm preaching, but I'm also teaching, and I'm not here to convert you or bring you into the religion. I'm just here to obviously highlight, the religion that I follow, and being a Sikh in Scotland and how it works for me. And then people sometimes, yeah, they get interested, and I say, just check online. I provide some websites, and you can look more into the faith, because obviously you've only got a short period of time that you can obviously tell how much you can tell someone. But yeah, it's just about enlightening them that who the Sikhs are and what we do for the community, and that's it, as simple as that. Whether they want to take it further, that's up to them, but that's not our mission.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you should get a T-shirt made up with something like, "I may be preaching, but I'm really teaching."
I like that. I'm gonna do that one.
Get a T-shirt made up for when next time you go into Dollar, or if you're invited to Queen Anne High School in Dunfermline. And yeah, so do you want to talk about some of the other stuff that you do in the community, interfaith wise? And do you want to talk? I want to leave this bit for when we talk about your religion, and that's at episode 4. We're going to be talking about religion, so this one's going to be mostly about interfaith. But do you want to just talk about some of the work that you do in the community and through the Gurdwara, which so in English people would think of as a temple, but it's called a Gurdwara, and some of the outreach that you do as well?
Yeah, again, a lot of it has been bringing the faith groups together. So also, normally once every 3 months, we bring in a lot of the faith groups, not away from the Peace March, to come just to enjoy our Divan, which is the service. And so normally myself and one of my Uncle Vijay Singh, will lead on that. So we're bringing the faith groups together. They'll come and they'll enjoy the service, and then we'll do a lot of talk at the end, and then bring them down, obviously, for the important part, the langar, which they really enjoy. So yeah, we do that. We try to do as much as we can. We like almost like an open day. I think that's very important, and I think all places of worship should follow suit. And I know definitely the mosque does it, because I've been to an open day 2, 3 occasions at mosque. I think it's really important to bring people in, because again, it's a similar thing when we go to schools. It's breaking down some of those barriers and showing people how we worship. So these open days are very important. So yeah, I've led on those open days for the last kind of 10 years. So they're really important. I also attend like sometimes services at churches and deliver talks, because again, the people that I roll with in these faith groups are amazing and loving people who will allow you to come in. For example, I'm a Sikh guy. I went to a church at Mayfield, and I remember thinking I was going on for a 5-10 minute speech, and the reverend who was there, Scott, I'm sure it's Scott McKenna, yeah, he says to me, right, Durhamere, the floor is yours. I was like, what do you mean? I thought I'm just doing a little talk. He goes, no, you're taking the service today. And that was amazing that he had faith in me, that I wasn't there to convert anybody or tell everybody, you got to be a Sikh. It was just me giving my spin on how we should practice our faith, because he was saying to me, and I'm sure, again, this is becoming quite common, sadly, a lot of places of worship are losing numbers in terms of people coming together and worshiping God within place of worship. It's just one of these things, so maybe a sign of bad times, and we always go through bad time before we get to the good times sometimes. So he wanted me to talk on that subject. It was, how can we start bringing people back and coming together as faith groups in their faith places of worship. So that was my subject basically. So it kind of all matched. But he had that confidence and he had that faith that I was going to stand and say the right thing. And that actually talk, I'll hopefully try to link that in the description, is on the Mayfield website. So I'll be happy to put that on the description.
No, firstly, really well done. And I'm just going to pick up a couple of points there. So just for the listeners, can you just describe what langar means and then seva means?
Yeah, so seva is selfless service. So it's doing something because you want to do it from your heart, not because someone's telling you to do it. You can be encouraged to do seva, but seva definitely has to come from inside. It has to be something you say, I want to do this, and you do it with love. And then langar is our communal langar that we come together to have food. So like it's like a free kitchen. If you want to translate it loosely, langar is free kitchen. So every gurdwara around the world will have a langar kitchen where you come and you can enjoy a nice hot meal. And it was for people who were less fortunate, really. It's now become something that everybody's having, which is fine. We won't discriminate against anyone who's coming in who's rich and they want to have a langar. The whole purpose of langar was, though, to help those people who were less fortunate, almost like a little bit like a soup kitchen. But another concept of langar was coming together as a community and all sitting on the one level. So we tend to sit on the floor unless you have a disability and you're unable to sit on the floor. Then we do have tables and chairs. But we all sit together, whether you're the janitor or you're the king of England, you'll sit on the same level as everyone else and enjoy a meal together.
Yeah. No, that's really quite powerful there, and that compassion and empathy for community, no matter your religion, and background and socioeconomic status, and obviously the biggest langar is probably the Golden Temple, in India. I'm sure I've seen various programs about that where they are, constantly putting out langar and giving food to the less fortunate, and anybody can walk in and be fed. They do encourage people to help out in the kitchen as well, though. But just talking about that langar, which is giving out that food and help and support making and sharing the food. Do you want to talk about some of the work that Edinburgh Sikh Leith community have done through the Gurdwara and to kind of outreach regarding sharing some of that food as well?
Yeah. I'll first touch on the Golden Temple, which Sikhs call Harmandir Sahib, because it's a really important point that you've brought up, because we're talking about interfaith here, and the beauty of how Harmandir Sahib, how the Golden Temple has been made. It's been made with 4 doors, basically 4 entrances. And the whole purpose behind that was, the thought process behind it was that everybody is welcome, regardless what faith you're from. Obviously, at the time, you could have many doors now because there's so many different faiths, but it was probably concentrating on the sort of main faith at the time when building was built, the Harmandir Sahib. But yeah, there's 4 doors, so it's everybody's welcome. So that's a really important point I wanted to make. In terms of outreach that Edinburgh Gurdwara has done, yeah, we set up a langar kitchen. We were going out and we're trying. The first purpose was trying to give it to the people who really needed it. So we were concentrating on homeless shelters. So we going around with a van. So our first 2 weeks of doing this seva, I remember, was jumping in a van, loading the van with the langar, and just trying to locate those places. It was a bit raggo, I'm honest with you. It wasn't very well thought out. We kind of on the day, right, we're about these homeless, places that we can go and drop off food, and we're successful, but not as successful as we should have been if we'd done more, more research. But that's, again, my brother will agree, that's the Desi way. It's a bit of just take how it goes, but that's not a very good way of doing things. But it was okay. The second time we managed to get into a place where they says come in at this time, and this is the time we normally serve dinner in this homeless shelter, but what we'll do is we'll cancel dinner that day and you can come in with your table. And we did that, and that was really successful. That went really well. So we done that on a few weeks in a trot, but then we thought, how can we go wider with this, because it was only concentrating on one homeless shelter, and they were obviously very welcoming to us and wanted us to do it all the time, but they wanted to be fair. So then what we did was we went to the streets and we set up a table, and we started giving it langar in the streets. And again, our main mission was trying to give it to the less fortunate, but we don't discriminate against anyone. So there was a lot of people coming with the suits and ties on, coming for the tea after work and and a meal. And we was obviously 100% open-hearted, give that meal to those people. But it started then a little bit changing dynamics because we felt it was going more to those people who never really needed it. But again, we can't judge because we're all struggling these days. So you don't know who needs it and who doesn't. Just because you got a suit and tie on doesn't mean that you're rolling it or anything like that. But yeah, that was quite successful. So that was our other outreach project that we had going.
Yeah, and that's really amazing and to hear, and I'm sure the listeners have learned something there regarding the Langar and giving that outreach as well. Do you want to just talk about some of how the dietary requirements are done regarding the Langar?
Yeah, so we in all gurdwaras in the world we only serve vegetarian food, and the reason behind that is so everybody can have it, regardless what your beliefs are on food. You know, whether it's halal, kosher, vegetarian. We try to serve that food that everybody can basically enjoy. So that's why in a gurdwara you always find vegetarian food. So we're trying to get better in terms of health reasons as well, because a lot of gurdwaras don't tend to follow very, the health kind of guidances when in terms of cooking the food. But we are trying to tweak the things. I think it's gone a little bit better than it used to be. We've tried to use better oils or less oils and, more fresher ingredients and things like that. Because obviously health and, prayers, they come hand in hand. We call it bhakti, which is meditation. If you've not got your health, then you can't meditate. So they're both very important things, and I think we forget that in a Gurdwara. So yeah, our food is obviously mostly based on vegetarian food and like chickpeas, potatoes, mixed veg, that type of thing.
No, that's really good to hear. And I think, what you mentioned there, health and well-being is quite important. And I think we discussed a lot of that in the episode 1. So if any of the listeners want to hear about that, they can go back to episode 1. Just to briefly discuss some of that. Food is quite important for communities and different communities, and different faiths and religions. And I think that the concept of the Langar and that outreach is quite important because food is a good way to bring people together as well. What do you think about those points?
Yeah, no, it does. And coming back to our topic of interfaith, we have had like interfaith meal nights as well. So the Gurdwara has hosted one of them before. Again, it's all done, on vegetarian, and we bring it together and we have chats about interfaith dialogue, so important. And they've been some of the greatest nights I've had in terms of interfaith dialogue, bringing them together over a meal, because everybody loves eating. Let's face it, we all enjoy our food. So yeah, we've had about 2 or 3 of them in the Gurdwara where we come together and talk about different ways of how we can build the community together and be more interlinked with them, because still, even in this day, 2024, we still have a lot of barriers that we've got to face, because there's a group of us and we're trying our best to bring folk together. And this is the whole point of these peace walks, peace marches, peace services, and these interfaith dialogues over a meal, is to bring more people together. So there's no discrimination. Just because I'm part of Edinburgh Interfaith, it doesn't mean someone else can join in. There's no problem with that. So we do try to advertise on the Edinburgh Interfaith website and things, on social media. They're on Facebook, they're on X, they're on, Instagram. So, please follow Edinburgh Interfaith, because you'll see a lot of these things going on, especially now the festival's coming. There'll be some interfaith stuff going on, like Interfaith Week, they call it, I'm sure, comes in August. So you'll see a lot of little events going on, small events at different places. So keep an eye on that as well.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant to and totally agree, including Interfaith Edinburgh, but also the wider Scotland. Yeah, if you look at Interfaith Scotland for events and local groups within your local areas. Yeah, so that's quite important. So just talking again about interfaith, and what have you learned from other faiths through the interfaith work?
Yeah, I've run that. We're all on a very similar mission, and when I've done some of my talks, I've always put this sort of analogy forward that it's like everybody needs to get to Manchester, but someone's coming from Edinburgh, someone's coming from Dundee, someone's coming from Glasgow, but we're all trying to get to Manchester, and that is the main thing. But we're taking these different roads to get there, and when I seen that, because even myself, I'm not going to lie, brought up in a Sikh faith, only knowing the Sikh faith, I was quite ignorant towards any other faith. So sitting with these people and understanding that they're all on the same mission, they love God, they want to bring the community together. I thought, that's what I'm trying to do. And that's what's made me who I am today. I always say that to Ian. I really honestly thank and big shout out again to Ian Stewart, because he's helped me so much to become who I am today, and more sort of compassionate towards other faiths, and helping them strive in their faith as well. That's something so important, which I'm going to just chuck this bit in, how important the faith dialogue is. And this definitely came from, rolling with these type of people. I used to work in an organization where there was a Muslim girl, and she used to see me in my full Sikh attire. And she goes, one day she stopped me in the corridor and she says to me, I just wanted to say, like, I don't know how you do it, because I've been really, desperately wanting to start wearing my hijab and stuff, because I've been really getting into my faith and I feel like it's something I want to do, but I just couldn't wear it to work. What I do is when I go home, I put it on then, but I want to wear it to work. Can you help me understand how you got the kind of courage to come to work with your full Sikh attire on? So just that little dialogue I had with her in the corridor, it just helped her, because from what I've learned through Interfaith. I think she came to our event as well, but just speaking to me and sort of giving her a bit of encouragement. She then, honestly, I'm not making this up, 1 week later she came into work with a hijab on, and she come up to me, she says to me, Dharamveer, thanks so much for the encouragement. So it just shows you, we're not here to put you off your faith or turn anybody else to a different faith. We're here to support each other. And I felt, with God's grace, I did that for that sister. And coming in, seeing her with her hijab on, it made me really happy. I thought I've made a small difference, and she was really grateful for that.
I totally agree, and that's the power regarding interfaith, and that interfaith dialogue. And there's other organisations out there. I'll just a wee shout out to Peter and Anwar from the Scottish Association for Interfaith Dialogue, or SAID for short, said. And it's a bit of a mouthful, because they're also trying to do what they can as well with outreach, with homeless shelters and food banks and food pantries. Earlier on, you mentioned Mayfield. I had the privilege through the Scottish Alabaster Society to do a volunteering day with Mayfield and Easterhouse Development Trust, and I also shout out to Brother Waris there, and also all the staff at the Mayfield and Easterhouse Development Trust for all the amazing work they're doing in the community. And again, that's just another example of interfaith. Like, they're doing food banks and food pantries, and they've got a food garden, they've got a cafe there as well, and they're also bringing in kids into kind of educational space in the gardens as well. So so just a quick shout out to them as well. And so again, that's another example of interfaith. Like, you're going beyond our understandings of our faith, looking at other faiths. And I think you and I have, brother, we've talked about the foundations of all the religions, and I'm not going to go here deep into the religion bit, because we'll be discussing that in episode 4. We've discussed this before, that the foundations of all the religions were based on charity, compassion, integrity, humility, and therefore some kind of religious leadership as well. And that's the kind of where we connected, I think, as well. Though I jokingly say we work at the same organization, and we met about 8 years ago, and our eyes met over my porridge and your vegan sausage roll, vegan morning roll or something. Do you want to talk about that, your perspective or the initial contact?
Well, me and you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was interesting, because obviously I used to see Saeed in the canteen, and he used to be obviously getting his morning breakfast, and so was I. Yeah, at the time I eat more porridge now, but I used to love a good roll with sausage. So it'd be used, because the organisation that I work for, they actually provide really good options for that. But yeah, I used to see Saeed all the time, and then one day I think we were standing quite close to each other. I think, like I say, he was grabbing his porridge and I was grabbing my sausage roll, and we just said, "Oh, hi," and then we just started chatting, and we just found out that we were both dads, we've got kids, same amount of kids, and just all started connecting. And just from there, I think that was our first kind of introduction, was the kind of whole kids, and that we're fact that we're Asians, that kind of. And I think maybe shared a few Punjabi words, and then that kind of helped us sort of laugh and think we've got someone to speak to at work now who's who can speak Punjabi. And then, from there, I started bumping into you. I remember you quite a few times, and we started connecting through this whole Interfaith. And I remember, and sorry I never attended, but this will give you, again, so beautifully connected with Interfaith, was the Scottish Rebel Society that you're a part of, holding an event for Guru Nanak's birthday, which was amazing. And I was invited along, but unfortunately, I don't know what happened. I couldn't make it that night. But I remember that was the first invite I got from you from that kind of organisation, and I'm so gutted like I missed it. But any future stuff, please do let me know.
Yeah, no, thank you. And so just a couple of things there. No, so I remember after that, meeting, and because prior to that, I used to see you in the stairwell, and I would just say hi because I always say hi to people in the building, and sometimes people think that it's weird, but I think it's normal to say hi to people. And I said, that day, I said I'm going to make a point of speaking to you because I always try to speak to people, and brother, you do obviously stand out as well. And I think we discussed in previous podcasts that, regarding the partition of India and Pakistan, and the languages of the country. So I'm obviously for the Muslim Shia faith, and you're from the Sikh faith. But for you, obviously, your Punjabi is obviously you've got Sanskrit, you've got the written form. But in Punjabi in our country is unwritten, and is uneducated people speak to Punjabi. And the formal language of Pakistan is Urdu, and obviously the religion is in Arabic, which is the Quran. And but with my dyslexia, and I think I talked about my neurodiversity before, I'm very much verbal rather than the written, so I can't do written. I can barely do English, to be honest. This is a struggle. But I still think in Punjabi, so it was a delight to be able to speak to you in Punjabi, and it made my time. I think I was through work. I was having some various challenges at that point, and part of many staff networks. We have the Race Equality Network in our work, and we have other networks. You've obviously part of the Sikh network, and there's also a Muslim network as well. But for me, that was so important to connect with you as a brother from another mother, but a brother from another faith, and also having that somebody I could relate to who, as you said, we had similar backstories, our time in a lengthened service, shall we say, in an organization, and being sole breadwinners, and having 3 children and stuff, and but when we then worked together in another job, and we spoke about this, and I said, it's so important that we keep this dialogue going because difference. I think I should get you t-shirt and myself t-shirt made about this. Is that let me get this right because I think I've said it before in a previous podcast. Is differences don't define us; they just make us unique.
I love that.
Differences should be, as you said, with your interfaith work as education to schools, and to trying to break down the barriers and misinformation and fake news regarding religions and stuff, because from my understanding, and some people, from extreme parts of different religions will not feel that the Muslim and Jewish and Christians are from the same Abrahamic religions, and there's divisions being created across the globe with that, and there's conflicts created as across the world as well as the Middle East on that, but those differences shouldn't make this a difficult relationship. It should, unite us. As I said, differences just make us unique. That's all it does, Other than that, if we were all the same, we'll be robots, and how boring would that be? I don't know what your take is on all that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that last point. If we were all the same, it'd be such a boring place, boring world, boring organization, boring workplace. But yeah, having all these different faiths and different type uniquenesses, it makes us who we are. And I've always described this again. Some of my talks, I always make this analogy of that. It's like a vase full of flowers, like a bunch of flowers, and not just a bunch of roses, like a full array of flowers. And there could be roses in there, carnations in there, tulips in there, daffodils in there, and they're all beautiful in their own rights, and they all smell differently as well. But it's still a beautiful bunch of flowers, and that's the way we should look at faith as well.
Yeah, definitely. And if we're going to use that metaphor of the vase and the flowers, I would take a step further to say the water that feeds us is the education, you know,
Yeah, I love it.
and that's what, you and Interfaith, Edinburgh Interfaith Scotland, Scottish Alabama Society, the Scottish Association for Religious Dialogue, all these organizations are doing a tremendous work to keep that spirit of interfaith alive and to break down these barriers that you've, mentioned before, by showing lived experience to showcase the different religions at the human level, and that's where empathy and compassion comes from. And I think the word that used in is hamdardi,
Mm.
and hamdardi would be empathy and compassion and stuff. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's so true. It's like that's what does bring us together. And yeah, I like that whole water thing that feeds us. That is the education. Like all these flowers are the different faith groups, and underneath is our foundation. Because we're all, on end of the day, we've all came from that same light, and that we call Vaheguru, God, Ram, Allah, and that's that water that's feeding us. And all these flowers bloom, and and when we bloom together, it's going to be a much better world. And this is the whole point of Edinburgh Interfaith. This is the whole point of Scottish Interfaith. This is the whole point of Interfaith. It's
Yeah,
bringing us all together just to enjoy life together as well. Yeah, practice what you practice, but it's your unique thing. Don't impose it on someone and make them think that's how you have to be. Is we all live in harmony together, and we can just be like this bunch of flowers and enjoy that. The Vigro being the water and education, then the world will be an amazing place. Hopefully, we'll get there one day.
one day, and that's always the hope, and I think education is so important. If you see, I mean, if you like, I don't know about you, I don't comment on Facebook, I don't comment on people's extreme views, shall we say, but I have seen stuff like when people are saying, like, oh no, that's God, your Allah is brutal and does this, this, and this, but no, it's like no, it's a one deity. It's the it's the one. If you like, if you're agnostic, if you're atheist, then okay, you may not believe in a
Yeah.
deity that of something that you pray towards, but as we discussed in the previous podcast, episode 2, is having faith in something. Okay, you don't believe in God or Allah or Ram or that having that faith, but you got to believe in something because other than you become hollow and have no compassion, you need some sets of principles. Okay, or you may be an atheist, but you need to have some sets of principles, you know, and morality. And I think some people struggling with that. That some people feel that don't want to be religious, but they do feel have a faith. So, what's your views on that?
Yeah, obviously, you know, everybody's free to practice what they practice. But yeah, if we're talking about atheism, an atheist person, they've got faith in themselves. So they've got faith in themselves. They've got faith in something. So the energy they call themselves, which we believe is part of God anyway, is
Yeah.
that's the faith they have in themselves. So yeah, everybody has a faith. You can't say you haven't got a faith.
Mm.
That's our minds telling us that, but really we're part of something because you have to have faith in something to get through life, or else it's
Yeah.
very difficult. So even as a person who's very passionate about being an atheist, that means they've got some passion about some faith that they have within themselves. So you can't get away from it.
No, definitely, and and there's so many communities out there, the self identified gypsy travelers, the Roma, and they have their own faith as well. Obviously we have the people who class themselves as pagan as well, but again, as you said, they have a faith in something, be that faith into a deity and something you believe in, or if you believe in yourself. I think also helps with that dissociation regarding that we're struggling post-COVID, during COVID and post-COVID, and we have obviously a rise in mental health impacts since then as well. Because I don't know about you, and I don't know if you experienced that with your mindset regarding what COVID did to you regarding your mindset, but at least you had your faith in religion. Do you want to talk
Mm.
a little bit about that if you want to, or?
Yeah, no, because COVID time, I think we have touched on this before, but it did destroy my mindset because I was like, is it? Is everything gone for me? And because I had a strong faith in my Sikh faith, going to the Gurdwara, meeting interfaith leaders, going to these panels and things like that, it all stopped. So it tested my faith. And this is why I feel for me and for a lot of people, faith it should be and is an important thing. Because without that faith to that point, I really think I would have been in a worse position because I was lost. I remember really feeling like, is that it? What shall I do now? But then I suppose channeling that energy that I've built up over the years had to come into practice at that point because I was alone, not alone physically because I had my family around me, but
Yeah.
I mentally felt alone. But then I channeled the energy of my faith. And I suppose it's like, this is the whole point. And again, I'm going to say it again, lived experiences, because you bring that into then practice. You think, okay, I've talked about this, I better put it into action now. And it's like channeling that energy. What have I done in my life up to this point of COVID when I felt like everything shut down? And that started keeping me going. That you know what, this time too will pass and we'll get back into action. Don't worry about it. And that kind of got me through. And that definitely came from having a faith.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to make you blush now. So I want to thank you because through COVID, and we talked about in episode 1 regarding your heart attack and your survival with that, and your health and well-being, journey taken after that. Most men feel alone, right? And I'll put my heart on the sleeve and I'll say I've experienced that quite a lot recently. But having somebody to talk to, for me, somebody to speak to in Punjabi as well, and somebody to connect with is important. And I just keep on winding you up because I sometimes sense how you're feeling, and you're like, oh my God, he knows exactly how I'm feeling and stuff. And that we've had various conversations over the last couple of days regarding different lived experience you're going through, and you've had that oh my God moment and stuff as well. Let's just talk about your mindset and in those situations and your feelings as well.
I think we'll do a podcast on this separately, a total just open, fire kind of podcast on some of these subjects. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. I mean, sometimes he scares me, this boy, because there's been times where I've been like, he goes, "You're quiet. Are you all right?" And it's like, okay, you're allowed to be quiet, but it's also sense something that maybe something is wrong. And like Saeed just said, I'm not ashamed to admit it, or I'm not too proud to admit that, I've had moments I'm feeling like, wow. And definitely not those moments, no suicidal thoughts, and God's grace, long may that continue. I won't have those thoughts. But I've had times I feel like lost, a bit of alone, like, what am I doing? I start questioning myself and my own. And again, I have to say thank you again, bro, because you've obviously said, no, don't do that because you're more than capable of doing X, Y, and Z, and with the right support and all this kind of thing. But it has been time I'm like questioning myself and my abilities because I've been feeling quite alone and lost and things like that. But I think this dialogue, even today, I'm going to just say it while we're on this call, and I know it's a bit off topic, but this is helping me mentally now because I'm actually really enjoying this. So I totally promote doing podcasts with your pals because it really does help from the mental health.
No, that's so beautiful, and no, I totally agree regarding having a connection, no matter the faith. So this is for me another example of interfaith, and having a brother from another faith, a brother from another mother, like I'm a little bit older than you, shall we say, and so I've experienced a lot of other things and stuff, and so the sense I get of radio silence is that my brother's struggling. I need to drop him a message because I personally as well, and we'll talk about this in future podcasts, but for me personally is when I'm really struggling, I do go radio silent. And so when you go radio silent, I know something's not quite, I feel it, and because that could be stress of life itself, that work life volunteering religious faith balance that you have, right? So it's a very tipping scale. But also those moments is where you do reach out and I reach out and stuff is just to so we know that there's somebody out there, not even just from the same faith or religion, but a community, but from another community as well. And that's for me, that's a strong message regarding interfaith as well. At the end of the day, we're human beings, at the end of the day, human beings are social animals, right? and we're pack animals. We're not lone wolves. You have to worry about lone wolves in the work environment or anywhere else in the community as well. You know, I know we're kind of coming to the end of our time now. Do you have any examples of where you've experienced that in either the work or in the community of kind of lone wolves versus the community of interfaith community, in general, kind of pack animal, concept?
Yeah, I actually have, and I'm glad it's a good way to end this because I totally agree. And I was reading something about this. I can't remember when it was, but it wasn't that long ago. How we are like, I know some of us are introverts and some of us are more extrovert, but I still feel we do well together. I feel being together, socializing is so important. And with this new way of life and working with this whole hybrid now that a lot of us don't tend to come into offices or wherever you work, it has changed a lot of that. And for some people, it's made them more introvert, and I think, but in a damaging way. And I have come across those folk that they're not really interested too much in your support and how to help you and try to bring people together. It's almost like I'm just on my own. I'll just carry on my own. I'll keep climbing the ladder, and good luck to you. So I have seen that in different organisations, but I think that is really detrimental to people's well-being, their health, their progress and work. And I have been feeling that quite myself recently. Again, not ashamed to admit, because what you said, that we are people that are normally in packs, and our scriptures, Guru Granth Sahib talks a lot about Sangat, and Sangat is, it's a wide word for any faith. It means a community, bringing community together, and being in Sangat is so important for everybody, whether you admit it or not. It is so important. Even if you're an introvert, just having a little bit of Sangat, just snippets of it, is so important. Shutting yourself completely off is really damaging and detrimental to, I would say, to a well-being and a health of a person.
No, I totally agree. And I think I've said it to you and also to my wife and other people. I said, I don't care if somebody's introvert or extrovert, right? They just need to have confidence in themselves, because that's where we're having some of these mental health issues, because some of the younger generation coming through, they do text messages. They don't even do text messages. They do voice messages. They do emails, and at work they'll do MS Teams chat. Then anything but speak to you. And that is causing its own issues because they're losing the most important thing, which is verbal communication. For me as well, being, a dyslexic as well, I need verbal communication. I need this, what we're doing here. This is good for my mental health, as you said as well. And so what we're doing, we're just building up issues. So technology is good when it's used properly, but technology is being used in a bad way. Some of the younger generations coming through to work don't have the social skills as a result of it. They rather email you or message you anything but speak to you. And when you speak to them, they get quite scared or anxious and stuff. I don't know if you've come across that yourself.
Yeah, no, I have seen that quite recently. It's like people are just happy to stay behind this kind of curtain and just send these messages in Teams. But when you're like, can you speak? It's almost like they try to avoid that at all costs. And I think that is quite damaging, and that has come from a result from the pandemic and now this whole hybrid working. And it's a shame, and especially for the new starts who started in any kind of organization where they're just come in blind and started from home. I'm not sure how that works and how you do it, because you and myself, we've been working in offices or whatever organization where we've been working together for a long time before this all kicked in, this whole pandemic. And I think it was really positive, start for us, positive journey, where folk that are not starting like that, I don't know how they're doing it. It's damaging as far as I can see.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. No, it's a really important skill. Having these interpersonal skills is good for your mental health. We've had the benefit of years of experience working in offices. So when the pandemic hit, obviously we had challenges, right? And you probably had, and I had mindset issues during the COVID, working from home and stuff. But at least we had all that previous year's experience, and then some new people coming to the team. I've worked with people during the pandemic and post pandemic, and to this day I've still not met them in person. Had people start and leave the organization during pandemic and stuff, and after, and still not met them in person. Obviously, I like yourself, I do try to go into the office building, and also, we'll talk about this in the next episodes regarding success and failures and imposter syndrome. It also, that lack of interpersonal skills starts affecting the mindset, and has an impact of what I said earlier on. It doesn't matter introvert or extrovert, having confidence in yourself and self-care is quite important. But we'll touch on all these things in the future episodes. But just that, we're coming to the end of this podcast. So just want to thank Rebel PT, Scottish Albert Society. We mentioned Interfaith Edinburgh, Interfaith Scotland, the Scottish Association for Interfaith Dialogue. Anybody else you want to mention?
I'll throw in, Edinburgh Gurdwara as well, because it's my hub from where I work. But yeah, definitely shout out to all those organisations, and we'll link them all in the description as well.
That's great. And also, I want to thank Liam Bailey again to supporting us regarding getting these podcasts sorted out and uploaded, and tremendous work that he's doing there. Also, another organization that I mentioned earlier on, the Mayfield Easter House and Development Trust, where they're doing amazing work with, supporting local communities there. So yeah, just closing off now. So shukriya, shukran, thank you, and mangitak, I think is Danish. Do you want to say any thank yous in different languages?
Yeah, just Dunwad and Shishi, which is in Chinese. One of my favorite words comes from rush hour. That's where I learned that from.
Is that Mandarin? Is that Mandarin? Is it Mandarin?
I'm not sure, but Chris Tucker says it in rush hour at the end when the lady hands over some peanuts and he says Shishi ni.
That's it. Well, no, thank you. Please look at the links within the YouTube, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.